tomorrow.
Yeah.
Saturday.
I was wondering about that too, actually.
Because Mary probably make a suggestion.
It sounded childish to me.
Meals can't always be able one.
Oh, sorry to get here in time to go to the other webcam.
Anything
Here.
I am the current facilitator and Neil is the current recorder. The next meeting is scheduled for Friday, June 21st. Neil will be the next facilitator and Tim the next recorder. First item is to review the post-busy season survey.
That's my item. So.
I'm sorry, can I go offline for just a second here and ask for clarification? We talked about trying to get, and maybe I can make a suggestion here, if we don't agree, Ray, please, please, let me say for the third time, please. We talked about trying to get some administrative stuff out of the way so we could spend the majority of the time on the post-busy season survey, and that we wouldn't have to worry about getting a timeline, a hard stop at 10:30, which we have a hard stop at 10:30. So I guess what I ask is, can we change the sequencing of what we talk about? Would that be okay?
Fine. Go with that.
Eric and
Yep.
I did think about that, and my thought was that we're still going to have the issue of what do we start with, but yeah, that's a good thing.
Can I interrupt for a second? Can you give me the phone number to the conference room, and can you guys put it on speakerphone, because I think I'm having the same issue again. I cannot hear anybody talking at all. So maybe I'll just mute my sound on the computer and listen to you guys from the phone.
Call us on our conference
Does that work? Yeah, what's the phone number to that line?
Nine
498 what?
925-498 6242.
Okay.
then you're going to have to turn off the sound then on Google, otherwise you're going to get a terrible.
Yeah. Can you mute yourself, Melissa, too?
Yeah.
Hello? Can you hear us?
Hey, thanks. Yeah.
Perfect.
Can you guys hear us in New York?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So what was your question?
Format are you proposing so we can present?
My question is, can we take this usual up first, so then we can leave an hour and 15 minutes or so for a discussion of post-busy service, our survey and our measures.
Maybe we can just start at the bottom and go backwards.
There you go.
The rocks?
Yeah. Those are the ones we want to get out of the way, right?
My
That's
apologies, Sarah. I should have talked to you about this yesterday.
Those are going to be quick as well. That's all admin stuff.
Growth and possibility rock.
Sure.
I can do that. Great. We did 3 schedules. Any questions? Comments? What I share with you is that we are behind. Questions about what that? I see quizzical looks on people's faces.
Why?
Questions about what that means?
Are there any thoughts as to why we are behind? Is there less effort this year than last year? Or, yeah, less this year than last year?
I might be not less than works and sometimes it's not working. Changing it.
I think there's been success at some level and there's been not success at other levels, and we need to understand why.
The other thing is we lost some business.
Yes.
Another years with $17,000 jobs. Things like that connects to the as well.
I would also share with you, and maybe I can bring in kind of a partner up as well, that Chris and Tim and I think we finally set on the time that we're going to get together and have a mid-year partner meeting so we talk about a lot of things that this will be. So, and that is July 10th, I don't know, but somewhere in the early to mid part of July. And if you have anything you'd like us to address, talk about. If we won't be talking about substantive things later, please bring it to our attention. Either come talk to any of the three of us, in this whatever.
I'm not on the marketing committee, but I would think that as our marketing committee gets underway more, that might give people a little bit more guidance or help or whatever as far as giving them skills in order to go out and join networks and all that stuff. So maybe as we get some internal, I don't want to use our guidelines, but some internal structure around what we want our marketing to look like, I think that might give people a little more stamina to build up their own resources and networks, and just kind of give people a little incentive to get out there, whether it's going to, and I don't want to speak for Tobin because I know that's the marketing committee, but I'm thinking that by focusing on the marketing committee, that may end up bottom line numbers helping our revenue as well. So we might be behind the 8 ball from last year, but,
Again,
only go forward.
The purpose for this meeting is to share and not necessarily to solve problems, right? So please communicate with us and put it in the form of, it would really be best if it came in the form of email so that we have something we can actually keep and not rely on our memory. I will share with you. Go ahead.
Do we want to move on to marketing?
Sarah's running the show.
Oh, well.
Just say yes.
Marketing, go.
Marketing is in a holding pattern. We're waiting on direction. So we'll start out from
And this is another thing that we will be addressing at this when we get together.
July 10th.
We did our absolute best to try to get time before that.
Community capital development.
We will be wrapping up our surveys for Marble Arch on Wednesday next week. And then they have 2 weeks to process and distill the information from that survey, and then we'll have a meeting with everyone. Probably, I'm not sure, but we're thinking everyone. They'll have a presentation for us to talk about what they found and all that, and then we will decide on steps moving forward after that. Like, are we going to use Marble Arch more? Are we not? Things like that.
Where should we all be in the process of completing the survey?
You have till Wednesday.
Where should we?
Should be 50% complete.
Yeah.
It's 25
Don't
questions.
put it off for the last minute.
Yeah, it's something that's going to take a lot of time if you try and do it all at once. So you should be working on 4 questions a day.
And this is
It's just extremely hard. That's all I have for that. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm hoping everyone had a chance to kind of read through the communication agreement and kind of refresh yourself on it. I don't know if anyone had anything that they thought they wanted to talk about while reading through it. Something that came to mind with me was, I know there was some feeling last year of people not feeling that, of being fearful to communicate and speak up, and I hope that's not still an issue. I don't know if anyone is still feeling like that.
If they are,
hopefully that's not still an issue, because that's definitely something that it says in the communication agreement. And also the thing that I think we probably could work on is responding to emails and voicemails in 24 hours. I'm sure we do with the clients, but I don't think internally it always gets done.
I thought we had a week.
24 days. I thought that was going pretty good. I was thinking maybe we can clarify is that you don't have to give them an answer in 24 hours. You have to tell them that you have to respond. Saying I'm going to address it at such and such a date. Or you have your autoresponder on. So either of those changes. Autoresponder on permanently.
One thing I would share with you is that there were two fundamental concepts that we brought to the table when we were creating these agreements. The first of those fundamental concepts was that it's possible to have a work environment that's built around honesty, open and honest. And candidly, I think that's a novel concept in a lot of organizations. And the second thing was that we want it. And so it started with that premise, and that was the premise in which we got going with these agreements. So if you think about it in those terms, there's a tremendous amount of responsibility that goes with it. And we're gonna learn some of that as we start to talk and have an open and honest conversation that I'm going to lead around our metrics. Okay? I would just ask everybody to keep that in mind when you're communicating, when you go back and look at this.
Departmental updates? Tax update?
Okay, so we had our first tax committee meeting last week, which I think went very well. We have a lot of items to discuss, from admin support in the tax process to actual tax return preparation process, delivery, and all that stuff. So what we're attempting to do is just bite off little pieces with each meeting. We have another meeting scheduled for end of May. So next week, where we're just going to continue following.
2 weeks from yesterday, right?
30th, I think. So yes, we're just going to continue following up and biting off pieces of these major issues that people had delivered to me as wanting to talk about. And I'll extend that to anybody that's not even in the tax committee. If you folks have anything that you want to see addressed or suggested, please by all means send it to me and I'll add it to the list and we'll talk about it. So I'm encouraged that we are getting started soon. I know it seems like we just kind of fell out of tax season and into the next year's processes, but I think it's good to do it now and that things are fresh in our minds still. And as opposed to September, October, trying to say, oh, that's right, that's what happened. Right now, the wounds, I don't want to use the word wounds, but kind of is, some fresh wounds that, oh, that didn't work so well, let's get right on that so we address that and make sure that doesn't happen again. So I'm encouraged that we're meeting sooner rather than later. I don't think we started really meeting until fall of last year, and we were still able to accomplish everything that we wanted to accomplish. But I think it's still good to kind of keep this in the back of people's minds as we're doing off-season work as well, because there's no reason why we can't implement new processes now for any work that we haven't done yet so far this year. So I'm encouraged by that. People have been participating and enthusiastic, and So we'll continue to report back on any major items that we feel that we've tackled and accomplished. As far as the tax update goes, people are still working on some returns that have been extended. We have June 15th coming up, so I sent out an email just a little bit ago listing out the returns that are due June 15th. So hopefully people can get started on those, addressing those, whether they're extensions or if the data's in-house or if it's not in-house, let's get rocking on those so we're not up to the wire on those. You'll also see from me next week, I put together a list of extended work, and it's listed out by client, and it's also can be sorted by preparer and partner as well. And the partners, a couple of and managers or whoever has knowledge on these clients, some have already put in their notes onto this spreadsheet. I'm going to roll this out to the preparers next week, and then what the plan is to divide this up into a 2-week block of time, so we can plan out from now until September 15th or October 15th, so that there's no surprises by anybody as to what our expectations are from the reviewer and partner side versus what your expectations are from a preparer side. If you want to take vacations, whatever. This is a great way, I think, for us all to be on the same page and know what lies ahead of all of us, because it's not just affecting the preparer, it's affecting the reviewer, the partner, and the processor. I'm encouraged by that as well. So look for that from me next week after I get a few more notes from people, and then obviously get back to me with any questions or updates that anybody else has to the spreadsheet. It's going to be on the N drive where y'all can find it, and we'll just keep one master list. Any questions on that? Bueller? Bill? Does anybody have questions for me from the tax perspective? No? Okay. Thank you.
Audit update?
Just keep it short, yeah. We're good. Thanks for the inquiry.
Admin? We are still looking to prepare for my leave. We've taken the next step and we've started training procedures, meetings, and whatnot. That was kind of detail we showed. Pretty much my main responsibilities to handle finalize open house registrations where I have also talked with the partners and pray time, and that starts July 15th and I come back November 15th. Keep in mind.
Is that what we think?
Yeah, keep in mind that's potentially flexible depending on what she decides. I'm on her schedule.
You will be for this one part.
That's what we're looking at.
20 years.
Forever.
Yeah.
So they, I imagine this has gone by in a flash. So if anyone has any questions, comments, concerns for any of that time period or anything, please let me know. Like I said, Ann, Niels, and I have been working hard for training. We've got calendar dates set up. So hopefully it should be a smooth transition all around.
I think it's been great because this is we can react to this in one of two ways. We can either go into a rabbit hole and avoid it and not deal with it, or we can attack it and become better for it.
Yeah.
And I think this has actually allowed us to become better. So.
Yeah.
Documented, cross-trained.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful what the three of you have done. So.
Yeah, we've been working hard and time into it, so we'll continue to do that from now till July. So.
Everybody's getting a training on how to process tax returns.
And financial statements.
I don't know about that.
Ledgers will have an intern, Molly Dane. She will be starting on June 3rd, 2 days a week. She is looking forward to it, and we are too. Other than that, we're busier right now than last month, and we're trying to convert some of the clients to the back office solution. We've been meeting with some clients and convincing them, and so we're busy with that.
Made them an offer they can't refuse.
Yeah.
Dead horse head in their head.
Yeah, in the interim, it will be better for us. And,
Staff meeting.
Our last staff meeting was in some ways a mini version of the one prior. We addressed.
What does that mean, Mike?
Oh, we addressed some what was felt to be unresolved matters, ideas, challenges with the last tax season. But we had decided most of these, if not all of these items, are on the tax committee agenda. So we feel they are going to get addressed, and we'll let the tax committee process work its way out to handle those. We also went over some frustrations with technology, computer stuff, but Mark has assured us that that's getting worked on and talked about, so all of our stuff is scheduled to be covered.
So you mentioned tax season and
Seemed a lot of. We didn't leave you on the last meeting, but yeah, it was pretty much the tax processes. And those,
because it is busy season, not tax season, right? I get that. What I'd ask, that's what I would try to encourage this group is to not. Yeah. Try to think and look outside of your own situation.
He agrees with
background entity. Now, granted, Melissa and Mark would look for the tax committee, so they can bring that when they have to come up. But it was.
I'm the only side. Really cool.
So hopefully it'll come up in more detail. Okay.
In an effort to keep this brief, everything's going well.
I don't know that we have anything to specifically report. What we're essentially trying to do, what we're going to do is we're going to find a way to spend some time looking on our.
Back to the beginning. So I'm championing the results of the survey. And I think the purpose of today's meeting here is to have everyone get everything off their chest they need to talk about. It's like an open and honest conversation. I want to stress that we're not going to try and solve any problems today. I want to address or identify the problems and then try and put someone in charge or have a champion of what those are. So hopefully we can agree that maybe we do or do not have a problem, and if we do, who can lead the charge to helping address those problems. So I was going to discuss each question, kind of read some of the comments I thought were thoughtful. Hopefully we can spur some conversation around each question, and then identify within that question whether or not we do or do not have something we want to have an action item coming out of. Does that sound good? All right. So question 1 was thoughts on improvement on our technology and hardware, our network. So some of the stuff that I thought was interesting, or some of the stuff I thought was thoughtful, was from Tim. We need to invest in good communication hardware. This will allow us to have better meetings and allow those participating from remote locations to feel like they are a part of the meetings because they can hear everything that is going on. And we need to consider alternative cloud providers. Crystal had the ability to work remotely is fantastic. I'm hoping that we don't just focus on like all the problems we have, but also we can talk about some of the good things that happened. And I think surveys tend to focus more on negative, but it doesn't always have to be that way. I thought I was thoughtful. I know we have asked ExtraDev to look into some things, and I just haven't heard back on those, so I feel like the response is hit and miss. From Lisa, support from ExtraDev is hit and miss. From Teresa, I thought this was insightful. I am sure it worked. It is worked on and reviewed, but it would be good to know. So I think what she's saying is that she thinks it's fixed, but she doesn't sure because it hasn't been communicated that it has been fixed. So not only getting the resolution, but communicating that the resolution's been reached. And then also from Mark, maybe they are all worked out now. Same thing. Like, he doesn't have a clue whether or not it's fixed or not. From Anne, we are always having some issues with the cloud, and I feel like ExtraDev just took their sweet old time in helping us, unless Tim sent an email or phone call. And then from Sarah, there are always issues with the cloud. From Tobin, consider implementing a regular maintenance process on our local computers so they will work more efficiently and longer. Consider finding other tools for online collaboration that will allow better long-distance training and client collaboration, and then encourage ExtraDev to be proactive in preventing and solving problems. Yeah. ED. Right. Yeah, I wouldn't want that. ExtraDev has had moments where they do great things, this is from Chris, and moments where they have problems. So I think the theme here is that people aren't sure. People think ExtraDev may or may not be doing a good job. That's the theme I saw. I also see a theme of people are struggling with their bicoastal communication, video and audio. So that being said, do we have a problem based on what people have said in the survey? I would like to open the forum for people's thoughts on this question.
Communication is in this meeting right here. Like when we're trying to do more than just 2 people on an Ubu. 2 people on an Ubu, I think you can talk pretty well. Now the collaboration piece is still a different issue because it's hard to, you can't. Like I walked up to Glenn today with a tax rate and said, okay, like here are the differences. It's a little bit hard to do that over an Ubu call and hold it to the screen. But the technology exists. The question is trying to afford the technology.
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer is yes, we can. I think it's we're not trying to solve problems here, but we need to understand what it is we're trying to do, and we need to learn how to do it. Right? Because you can exactly what you just talked about. You can do on Uber for $3 a month. So it's what is it about that technology that isn't working for each user, and understanding that. Right? And if it doesn't work, that's great. But we need to understand what is it you're trying to accomplish. Let's try it and find a way that works. It's out there. It's doable. But part of it is we need to spend the time and effort to learn how to do it. Well, as opposed to say it doesn't work.
Well, and I think there's different levels of it. Yeah, there's the $3 Uber thing, and I think that's probably going to cost a lot more than that.
Exactly. But it all comes down to what is it we need to do, and can we do it with what we have, or do we need to work with it?
I think Mark's actually looking into this issue right now.
Yes, I am, and many of the things that I just heard are exactly what I'm doing in my process of searching. I feel like we have a good grasp of what we're missing and what we have, but what we have and why it's not providing the quality we need. For example, Uvu provides most everything we need, but it's not doing it well in most circumstances.
It's hit or miss too.
Right, exactly. Sharing monitors to, audio communication, even video sometimes.
Yeah, I find Melissa and I share screen quite a bit, and we find probably after what, Melissa, like after 15 minutes, the screen freezes up, you gotta shut down, you gotta log back in and start sharing again. It's not, that's obviously something that is not a showstopper, but it's a pain when you're in the middle of getting from point A to point Z and you gotta stop 3 times to refresh your screen.
And
the audio is hit or miss, but as you said, it does everything we want it to do. It's just, could be something out there that's better.
And there is. It's just an answer to find out which one can provide everything we want.
I think also why we're having these problems, because there's an extra dev issue. We're having these problems because of hardware and limitations that we have. It's possible that it's user behavior that are causing some of these problems. And I would say that it's not exclusively any of those. Because each of those participate in the problem.
Absolutely.
Essentially, what I'm saying is we need to be careful that changing to a new provider for our cloud provider may not be the meta problem to be fixed.
Okay. So Mark's looking into the issue of communication, both audio, video, and also shared video.
Right.
I think the other issue that we identified was yes, exactly. We want to have. Chris is going to have.
I've already started.
What do you have? You started.
Started looking at the cloud. Back out of the topics of partner meetings.
So if we have Chris looking into potentially changing cloud providers, if it makes sense, and then Mark looking into the hardware and communication stuff, does that satisfy everyone?
Have it.
Capital development.
And we also, I think, need to truly understand what it is we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And I understand Mark's looking into communication, but what does that involve? Is it, what is it if you're looking at? Or is it just screen sharing? There's a lot of different components that go into that. There's a lot of different possibilities. So what I'm going to be expecting from Mark is, here's what our problems are, here's what I've looked into, here are the possible solutions, and this is the one that I like best. Right? Because I've got ideas in my head as well about what we could possibly be using.
Yeah.
In my own experience.
And it might be helpful, Mark, if you send out like an update as to what you're doing and how you're going about it and what your thoughts are on it. So
Yeah, that's my goal. I've just hit decent sized roadblocks this week and trying to get that. So I'll hopefully send an update in the next couple days.
Chris, I see training is very important. And also one of the questions that's later on too. So
yeah, I think that's going to be an overshadowed kind of comment.
Totally. Okay.
Is that learning part of the user issues that Glenn mentioned earlier?
Yes. I believe so.
Anyone else want to share about this one before I move on?
Can I ask a question about this one?
Yes.
from an overall perspective, are we happy with the cloud environment?
Oh yeah, it is. I got that impression too, Chris, that when I read all the questions, that the cloud's great. We like the ability to work from anywhere on any kind of
We just want less
desktop.
headaches associated with it.
Yeah.
Less crashing,
We
less
can, we
security.
want less headaches.
More of a seamless integration, so it feels like we're working on our desktop versus it feels like we're working in the cloud.
And that's the theme I'm getting from all the other providers, is that they do it very differently.
Then I should ever.
We need to be careful with their self.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's some, it's just about, they do it this way, they say it's better, right? But ultimately, we need to figure out what's right for us.
So I see Chris and Mark championing our two issues right there for this one. Is that okay, everyone?
Yep.
All right. Question 2 was thoughts on our software. And read some thoughtful comments again from Tim. We have good software. From Glenn, I would like to see us consider a comparison of Thomson Reuters and CCH. Lisa, the more everyone uses Kit, the more useful it will be. Like that. I think we'll go into that later. In depth. From Melissa, overall I think we had fewer issues on the server cloud this year than last. From Mark, I think right now it is hard. It's hard. Right now it's hard to people with technological issues as well as share video and CPU, etc. So that's going back to the communication thing again. So he's looking into that. Sarah I have no problems with software programs and they're all easy to use. So I think we also have differing thoughts on it. Like, how is she having such a wonderful experience and we're all not, or someone else or something like that. So we can identify, like, maybe she's using it differently or whatever the case may be. But
Sarah can help us all learn.
just found our software trainer. From Chris, I do believe that there are systems out there that can make our jobs easier, and we need to be open to researching, reviewing, and implementing them. It seems that we have slowed down on embracing of new technology as the availability of new technology has increased. I think that's a very poignant point. I think we have backed off our adoption of potentially, more advanced technology than we ever have in the past. And then from Josh, I know TOS uses different software at times than Ledgers, but I think that we use a very efficient software, so he's good with it. So clearly we have differing views. We all use different software. Ledgers uses QuickBooks a lot. TYS not so much. The themes that I got from this that I think are prevalent are that overall we're satisfied with the actual software we're using, like the CCH suite, QuickBooks, stuff like that. But there are frustrations with the glitches and stuff, and I'm not sure if that's software or cloud or hardware related. And maybe we should look into Thomson Reuters versus CCH. I don't know. That's another thing we can think about. And then I think that per Chris's comment that we have slowed embracing new technology. So this is actually one of the ones that we rated higher on overall as a firm, so I think that's great. And I think that's shown through the comments as well, that people were like, yeah, software's good, but here's some smaller issues that we'd like to get resolved. So do we have a problem in this area as far as software?
I think we have an opportunity with regards to software. We're happy where we're at, but we should also be open to exploring other things. And not just say, we used it last year, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before, so we'll use it again. Just want to make sure we're using it because it's the right thing for us. And the way we can know if it's the right thing is if we look at other opportunities and say, what does it have that this doesn't have? Does it make sense to consider looking more deeply? So, it's one of my thoughts as far as getting into the tax committee meetings. I think in the tax committee meeting we should be saying, okay, which one of us is going to go out and look at these different software packages and bring it back to the group?
Sure, prep or something.
On the audit side, is there anything over there that can help us in our processes? I don't know. It's one of those things that we each have to say, as we're going through our daily work, if something pops up and you look at it and say, that's pretty cool, bring it back and say, hey, I just saw this. This makes a lot of sense for us. We can use it this way. We've got to consider it.
Yeah.
just be aware of it.
I completely agree. I'm the kind of person, I'm never satisfied with what software I got. I always want to, I don't feel quite right unless I'm searching for something new, something better. You know?
Make sure it's a productive. It's good to be open, but it's.
Well, yeah.
Probably it's changing because
That's why I put it on the back burner for, I keep that unsatisfaction quelched for the most part because it does turn into unproductivity if you're not careful.
Lisa, do you remember last year, was our CCH renewal due like around August?
Yeah, it's August. Yeah.
CCH
Oh,
is
sorry.
not due until. I have the renewal on my desk right now.
Okay, so it's probably something if we want to look at that, we need to get going on that.
Yeah,
Because the earlier you register with CCH, I think the better discount we can get.
Yeah, within reason.
Can I ask the partners allowed to have a conversation in July about what suite of products, whether we as a partner decide that that's the project that we want to work with. I think that's the
Yeah.
there are so many unintended consequences, potential unintended consequences with that change. Huge amount.
That is fine. Do you want somebody to do some initial research? Right.
Think about it. But that's why I asked the partner to be allowed to tackle. We will hopefully think about firm-wide institutions on what the switch would be to switch away from something to something else. But my comment with regard to Thompson Blair is just an example that we should be moving towards something, not moving away from something. Making a conscious.
Oh, that's totally fine. In order for you to make your, or to have your conversation in July when you meet, do you want to have something in front of you tangible to talk about first, or you want to just wait till after you guys meet and then we'll go from there?
We're going to be part of one benefits of us meeting. We have some time. We're going to start to refine our list of things that we're going to do over the 2 days of the event. And then we will each take ownership of various of these topics. And we need information to go to the people that we can get the information from. So we will request to pull that in as opposed to like we need to push information. Okay?
Okay, that's fine.
Absolutely fair.
Yep, you did. I just didn't know if you wanted me or somebody else to start researching for you guys to have a conversation in July. Okay.
I was trying to give you my in terms of why I'm saying that.
That's fine. Thank you.
Works for me.
That being said, Chris mentioned that we're all kind of responsible for thinking about new things we can bring into the firm. It doesn't necessarily put someone in charge of it. Do we feel that we need like a champion of do we feel we need a champion of like software technology searching?
Searching more. The idea is if you see something you like, you can bring it to people or somebody who's hey, we found this because this, you got to consider this. Someone had a conversation about whether or not we can run something like that.
I would ask you in what way do these things that we're talking about serve a big box? And to the extent that they serve a big box,
Let me ask you this question. So how, and I thought went to the survey, am I spending time researching new cloud provider, how does that support our existing processes?
I think the board provides us with a profitability component, both from a potential cost side as well as a effectiveness side, and it allows us to be more processes a bit more effective. So it could absolutely a straightforward I think it also affects the relation to the HCPs and the side of side of us all in ways becoming better. I think it serves all of us.
Hang a hat on.
What I'd be concerned about is my sense is that each of the marketing and that's we have subverted Tobin's efforts in that regard, so I'm not laying this responsibility at Tobin's feet at all. This is the partners that have asked him to hold while we sit back and rethink our overall marketing strategy before we then go down the path. But I think we have a lot on our plate with regard to our big rocks for 2015 and to take focus away from those by creating another area. I agree. I think we need to just be whatever we do. Absolutely.
I can attest to the human capital development part of it, as I've worked with Eric on things like the YouTube channel and trying to come up with a better process for processing financial statements. I have learned an incredible amount of what Adobe can do, what Excel can do, what Word can do, what YouTube can do. So you learn not only what your current software allows you to do, but what it doesn't allow you to do, and possible other software and or hardware allows you to do. So
I think at its core level, the HCDC thing is about us becoming better.
Well, from an overall perspective, yeah, but our individual specific objectives for 2013 are pretty specific. And I don't, in my recollection, is this, yeah, in kind of a global way to support it. But I think it's outside the scope of where those efforts are. And I'm okay with that. I'm just saying, I think we're creating something beyond what we already have on our plate.
Okay, so I'm hearing that we just want to leave this one as like, be aware of new stuff out there and bring it to the table if you think it's something that we should talk about.
Yeah.
I feel like that can be a little bit of a dangerous precedent to set because it gets forgotten about. And I know we've experienced this in the past when we've had our 5 rocks that we decided to do and no one talked about them for the whole year and we didn't have champions of these rocks. So if it's not going to be elevated to the importance of a champion, then I think that it may just be one of those things that may or may not happen.
I think this particular issue is at that level.
Yeah, no, it doesn't need a champion. I just want to make sure that's clear that this is not a priority. Okay. Does anyone else have any more thoughts on that one? I don't want to spend too much time on the one that we rated the highest.
The only thing I want to say on that is that I know that we have other softwares that we don't use at measures that we could. It would be a great idea. It would be good for us to learn them. Fixed assets, come to mind, and it wouldn't hurt for us to learn how tech software works. What we do ties into tax completely, and so that I think comes under the training and the education.
We have some little tutorials that we put together. I can show you that and dive right in the training. We did it for like onboarding. There's like a little tutorial for each like program that we were using. And training, learning, and then onboarding.
One thing to remember with the new software, 99.9% of them are going to have a website that has tutorials built onto it. So if you ever have a question about how to use something, just go to the website, so you look at the page to what you're finding.
And if we were, I don't know I know I have access to those systems, but I don't know if they're in charge, is they're in charge, if they have access to any of those.
All right. Question 3 was about our improvement on our processes. And then some of the comments I thought were thoughtful were from Tim. I think our process, both A&A and tax compliance, are decent. I think our ability to manage jobs, staff, communicate with all people in the firm about job status, expectations, due dates, and training during the process is below average. Crystal has, I think our processes are pretty good overall, but I feel there is some room for improvement. It would be great if we did have them documented in maybe a checklist form like they were before. No. I feel that we have good processes in place from a tax perspective. The challenge comes when processes are deviated from, that undermine our tax department credibility from within the firm and can make us look like we are not in control. This is from Glenn. I'd like to see us make selling of lower price tax returns more acceptable. I'd like to see us integrate letters and AA tax processing to make it more automated. Lisa has our processes can always be reviewed and improved. Teresa, process, it would help a great deal to know the tax process. Melissa has, I still have confusion about some processes for admin. Niels, I think our processes work pretty well, especially when the process was followed start to finish on a task. I also appreciate the ability to change the process when we spotted gaps. From Sarah, I'm not sure about TYS, but Ledgers will still needs to work on its processes and procedures. Tobin, I'm almost done. I'm interested in further discussion about different processes and models for different levels of tax work. Michael has not always followed the letter, but that is user's fault, not the process. Chris says we have good processes, but they can be better. So clearly, I think what we see there is that we have so-so processes that work pretty well, but if they're not followed, they are completely useless. So, and I also think that I see that there's confusion in the process and how it's supposed to go from the different levels. So thoughts on that, and do we have a problem in this area? I think we do.
Any thoughts on what the problem is?
I think that everyone. What? Sorry. What?
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
You came, I just would love you.
I don't like silence, so I thought I'd say.
Silence is a beautiful thing.
I'm with, I believe I share an opinion with Crystal that I think we need to document our processes. We don't need we certainly don't need as thorough a checklist as we used to, but to have some kind of documentation so that someone who hasn't worked in that particular area for a while can come and look and be reminded. Because right now it just seems like it's word of mouth and
In January 2012, though, they were all documented on your tax law. And then.
Thank you. I was just going to say.
Some of them are. They are documented.
Yes, they are documented.
That's a different one.
We did this last year. We have processes for extensions, processes for returns. We have processes documented for processing. I mean, we did this all last year. It's right in the end drive.
I didn't think it last year, but it seemed kind of vague to me. It wasn't. I don't know.
It doesn't address every situation.
Well, no, I just was still not sure like what the next steps were. It could be because I was just
process may be there, but the details on how to do steps within the process are not there, which is, in my mind, is a slightly different issue.
Is it workflow versus steps? Is the process that we have documented a workflow process rather than the specific how-to?
Right. It's the training within the process.
So I see that we have clearly confusion. I think that's a problem. So.
Well, I take this as an opportunity then, because we had the processes that we spent multiple tax committees on last year to come up with it from a tax perspective process. So what maybe we should do is we'll bring those right back up to the forefront of our tax committees again. We'll rework them, knowing what happened this year versus last year, and we can only improve on them. But I mean, they're available to everybody, and when we're done, we'll push them out. Everybody's O&A on them.
What I hear is not the fact that we don't have a process, because we have a process. The gap is we've got this process that exists. Now we're going to talk in depth about people, right? We're a bit, and we have a process. And not a very complicated one. But there's a gap between process and the implementation. Okay? And we are not, the problem our processes that we have, the problem isn't that we don't have a process. The problem is that we aren't implementing the process. Okay? So what I see is we need to understand why we're not. And that is the problem. Why aren't we implementing our processes? Why aren't we using them? The idea isn't to come up with a better process and then we won't use it again. Right? Come up with an even better process and we won't use it again.
Right. Well, what I see is if there's less confusion around it. Someone talking, I can't hear.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I have a lot of feedback, so I can't tell if that's somebody talking or just air. Yes, we have processes, and as you said, they're not always followed. And this is where I would present the opportunity if somebody's unclear on something to ask, and don't make those assumptions on what the next step is, because then they just spiral out of control. So, and I would be the first one to admit that, there's always room for improvement. So that's why if anybody has any suggestions on the process, people that are not on the tax committee as well, I think it's a great opportunity to share feedback. Whether it's new process or how do we get people to follow the process.
I think
which may not be a tax committee.
I'm really trying not to step on you. I think that's great, but we've offered in the past, and we continue to offer. If you have a question about the process, come ask me. Anything like that, and that's just not working.
Well, it seems to me that there needs to be a meeting of the minds of what the process is. Does everybody understand the process the same way? It doesn't seem like it. And I, for one, would like to be in a meeting where everybody says, "Oh, this is how we process a tax return." And then Michael says, "Well, I do this," and Mark says, "Well, I do that," and then it says, "Well, why do you do that?" And then there are different ways of getting to the end result, but some of those ways are better than others. And understanding the process and believing in the process will probably get us to a better place.
I think what we're going to find when I get into a conversation around KIT, this is going to become really apparent. Okay, I think tax gets a little bit more muddled because of the complexity of what we're doing, and you can't have a single process for a tax return because there are no two tax returns that are. So you have to have judgment. Okay, so I think that can muddle it. I do believe the conversation that we're going to have around KIT is a much simpler, less complicated conversation. At least I think so. Maybe not. But I think when we get into that, and we clearly have a stated process, and we have lack of implementation. So it's going to be, we can have that conversation to get there. So I just think what appears to me is a lack of implementation. Why aren't we using our processes that we have?
I'm thinking that hopefully through Glenn's talk about metrics and our implementation of metrics that this will kind of solve itself. I'm hoping. So I don't necessarily think that we need a champion of processes.
No, I think each individual department should have its own champion process. I believe that processes are always a dynamic thing, right? You're always looking to improve on them as opposed to just use the same thing over and over again.
Right.
Because things change.
Well, then we need to also, I think what's lacking probably is the holding people accountable following the process.
What?
No, we're gonna get, well, I know that's an extreme and there's a reason for my comment, but I don't have a board, but if I did, I got spats from.
More aerodynamic that way.
But I think he does have a point, though, in that, like, admin is at the beginning and at the end of the process, and because we are at the end of the process, we are able to see, kind of what's occurred throughout the whole tax return, and we can hold at least the people towards the end of the process accountable, like making sure that the managers actually check the manager review box. So I think for certain issues with following process, it is about the next person in line, making sure that the person behind them follows the process, and hopefully you don't have to handhold, coddle, or whatever throughout. Yes.
Physically or emotionally.
To some degree, it felt like us in the admin team, like we were beating people ahead of us, like, oh, you didn't do this, you came to this without this, and this wasn't checked, and it's like, for our process, it should just come done, completed, ready for us to get out the door, so.
At least more often than not.
Yeah, obviously, there's always exceptions,
Right.
yeah, there's always things that happen, but.
Well, but I mean, it probably does come complete more often than not. It's just those that don't come complete.
I would beg to differ with that. I would beg to differ.
Yeah, I think we're, whoa.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think we're,
contrary to
let's just stop. I don't want to spend too much time on this one, because I think Glenn's going to spend his own time, and I'd rather hear Glenn talk than myself.
Well, I think I know we have them documented, but they definitely changed a lot since January 2012.
Yeah.
And then, like, Kit is totally different. We've got all kinds of extra
It's
boxes.
just the same as the operating agreements. If we don't keep looking at them, no one knows they're there.
They should be.
So they may be there, that's great, but if you don't know what's on the K drive, how are you going to find it?
Yeah.
So that
Or
being
if they're
said,
not updated when we change them. I stopped using them for no longer applicable.
what's the latest edit date on those files? Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
Well,
I'm saying.
then, why, my question is why are we just ignoring them as opposed to bringing it up and saying, hey, we ought to look at this?
Yeah, that's
We're
what
going to get into the whys later.
Okay. So
when we have a conversation.
the next one is improvement on our services. I think this is another high one, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but everyone seems to be pretty happy with the services we're offering. I think that the main theme I saw was that people would like to try and implement that different level of tax return service. Is that kind of how everyone felt? So I don't know, is that something the tax department's already working on?
So if that's the case, why are we not having success in selling this?
We don't have any training on how to sell. I think that's a common theme.
Because we don't have, what you know, how.
Right.
What you're saying.
We don't know, well, also I think we need a more cohesive at what we're selling.
I'm going to challenge you on that, Eric, because what you're telling me is that everybody understands our services well enough to say that there's no.
Right.
So if they understand them well enough to say if they're good, they should understand them well enough to sell them.
It's not true. People are not necessarily good at selling. I can do a review in my office all day long, but I can't go sell it to a contractor.
There's two different things. There's the act of selling, and if we need help in terms of learning how to sell, I get that. But what we're saying is we're not good at selling. And that's different than understanding the service.
I think that Michael doesn't understand how we do financial statements, so he can't sell a financial statement.
And does he understand tax return?
I would venture to say yes.
Okay. And the easiest path is for him to go out and sell tax returns, right? So why is Michael not selling tax returns? And I'm not picking on Michael.
No, I know. It's just everyone.
Right. So why is Michael not selling tax returns? Please, let Michael answer.
That was for me.
The silence of you, wasn't it?
I saw the main one is what Chris just said. I got ideas. Tim's going to coach me. I have much experience at it.
So I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know how. That's okay. That's okay. Not knowing how. Ignorance is better. Ignorance is okay. Okay?
The big part is we don't know how. The other part is we don't really get it. We understand a piece of it, but we don't understand the whole offer.
Yeah, but I think what we ask people to do is to sell those things that they know. So we ask them to, Michael, perfect example, we ask them to sell tax returns, which we've done. So, and if we need to understand why that's not happening. It's not happening because he doesn't understand tax returns. Clearly, Michael understands tax returns. Is it not happening because he doesn't? Because he.
That just got recorded on the YouTube channel.
It's going viral.
But if he doesn't know how, that's a problem we can solve. But the problem is not to train Michael Morris in tax returns so he can sell returns.
I think we could probably use more training on tax returns.
Different issue.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Well, I think that there are different opportunities that present themselves to all of us in different instances. For me, maybe because when I go see clients and they voice to me that they're unhappy with their current CPA or they're starting a new business and they don't have a CPA in the class, they're very interested to say, well, hello. But everybody needs a tax return done. And whenever we are in a situation where we can say, well, our company has solar services, just so you know. And then I get someone from a cloud to say, oh, you guys do tax returns? Yes, we do. Okay. So then we come with it. But we need to put the word out if we want to be active in selling. And it's not that we have to say, oh, you gotta come to us. We just put it out there.
One of the things that we're probably going to talk about next is utilizing our TYS intellectual capital. And what I'm suggesting there is I have 30 years of experience, Chris has 20-some years of experience, Tim has 20-some years of experience doing that, and we should utilize that intellectual capital that we're going to create. Maybe this is an area we can do. Okay. And to in a more positive way respond to your comment there, yes, we can all learn more about tax return. My question would be to you, how is that going to make Michael self-employed? I would suggest you would make him more pay. And it would make him better, but he could become marginally better, significantly better, if we help him with the selling of the tax returns as opposed to
Yeah, I think that.
and it's not either or, it's both, but where do we focus?
So I guess I don't see a direct specific problem that we need to address. I think that this hopefully will kind of fall into the HCDS rock as far as personal development and how can we help everyone with their weaker areas that they want to improve on.
I think there's another example of how I think this absolutely falls into the box of 2013, growth and profitability. Okay? This falls under HCDC. How do people, anytime we can get something that we can check off of two or more of the boxes, that's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
So, let's consider doing it. The other comment I would make is that we will absolutely be addressing this in our partner retreat. So while it may not have an individual champion within this room, this is something that we spend a great deal of time talking about because I think it is one of the mega
challenges. Okay. I think the last one was one of the ones that's important to me, obviously, which is the education opportunities and room for improvement. Once again, this was a lower rated one. The common theme I saw here was that people think we have a lack of training, which I couldn't agree more with. So how do we fix that? And I'll leave that open to the crowd. And also, I think I've gone way over my time.
No, it's okay. We're going to reschedule for my meeting.
Oh, it's good.
As much as I think it's very important that we do this. I think you're thank you very much for taking on this and taking the responsibility of this and willingly take that. So thank you very much. I mean, in all sincerity. But yeah, I think we should spend the time on this and make sure this is adequately addressed.
Okay, so I'll read some comments then since I have more time. I would like to see more lunch and learns from Tim. From Crystal slacked off on her in-house training. No. I'd like to see the partners share some of their vast knowledge through lunch and learns. Glenn. I'd like to see us leverage our CPE and bring them internally. Lisa she'd like to see more trainings brought in-house. She'd like to see the partners and managers participate in lunch and learns. Michael talks about improving our in-house training. And Chris says, I do believe in house education is lacking. So what's the theme there? To me, it's that we're not training our own people. And we're not capitalizing on what Glenn was talking about, which is the vast pool of knowledge that has been developed over the 175 years. Combined partner knowledge.
That's just Glenn.
That's one of the benefits from officially being a senior citizen. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that, does anyone have comments to say about that? I mean, I think the problem's clear here, but also,
We actually talked about this in last meeting we just had, and last meeting about how we want to get involved in that work on and hopefully partner up to be their manager partner like we've done in the past and do this.
Can I comment from my perspective? Everything that comes to me. I have broadened the perspective of the reality of what I hope you know this. I'm willing to share anything of my limited knowledge. Okay? I just want to you want to know something from me? I'll give you as much as you want to know. So there's something inside me that is anybody or all of you, and I'm willing to sit down and say, you want to say, have a dialogue. We're thinking you should have listened and say, well, maybe you can just, you can work with it. So it doesn't just have to be but it's got to start from my perspective, start from something. I'd really like to this. Is that fair? Just put that responsibility
on everybody to come up with topics and topics. The last couple of years, it's really this class. And we can start to think about right now. It's great. Wants to work
Teresa, can you repeat that? No.
I volunteered to put together of topics to be tonight. If you send me any topics you want classes on, I'll put it together and I'll try to figure out, and I'll ask around people.
Didn't even have to ask. And Glenn, one thing to your point is that while I think it is our responsibility to ask you for education, if you do notice repetitive items, you need to bring them up.
As I did earlier in our conversation around maybe selling, what methodology I use. It allows me to go and self-improve. I think I'm somewhat successful. But the methodology that I've developed over a period of 30 years
Great. Thank you, Teresa. That was easy one for me. No silence or anything. So that's kind of the.
So that is one piece of it, Eric. What about the piece of people going out and getting external CPD and bringing back an hour, 2 hours? I'm going to mention something that I think I saw in Crystal that I would challenge it with my kids. In a non-offensive way. That's not my intent. But I think you said you took a class, an update class. A gap update class. And I would think that if you took a gap update class, you're taking at least knowledge. There's got to be an hour worth of content that is of some value to all of us, even if it's just a refresher. Okay? Otherwise, I would say we shouldn't be taking it. So, and I'd like to believe, and I'm guilty of this as well. Crystal, I only use it because I know you had a specific comment in your responses. It didn't feel like it was worthy. I think the content may not be fully rich, but there's other reasons to do that. It puts you in front of the group and allows you to teach all of us. There's a huge check mark there for your growth to be able to do that. So, it's not just about imparting knowledge.
Yeah, no, that's why we did it, was intended to bring it back, but honestly, the only thing that affected anything that we do was the lease amendment changes.
these conferences, and that was still, the guy, it was so early in the process that he had no idea, and it's even changed since then. There's been another,
One of the nice things about those is if I don't go to update class and miss out on some certain things that you may not know apply to one of my clients or something like that. So even if you come back and say, here are the pronouncements that changed, here are the topics, and then we can say, wait a second, we do have a couple of clients that applies to, and then maybe we go into more detail on it. But just getting an update that says, here's what's changed to make us aware in case something comes up. It's great.
By inference, everything else has it. So, that in itself is a value.
So don't discount things just because they're not immediately applied to what you're doing on a daily basis. It could apply to somebody. And if you finish, it will tell you it was worth this with
Even if it just puts you in front of us,
Yeah.
in that leadership mode, that's an awesome thing.
Well, on top of that, though, you also come across people that ask you questions about things that we don't necessarily do. But if there's something that you bring up, well, then maybe you have a little bit of talking knowledge, gossip knowledge that you can do while you can talk about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's all valid, and I'm hoping that within this lunch and learn process, we can capitalize on some of that outside CP to bring back those lunch and learns. So they kind of go like, we can have internal lunch and learns that we develop on like a WIP schedule, or we can have a lunch and learn on A&A updates or tax updates or whatever the case may be. So.
And this is a topic within the HTTPS program that we're trying to put in place. It's definitely an item that we want to capitalize on outside CP, and it would be front and center in anything we do on that side.
Well, I'm in the second year of my renewal, and I'm a definite 2060 guy. Last time an 1862 guy. There's a problem. So that I will be having a significant amount, so I will bring back. That's my job this time.
We have it recorded, but.
Got a record.
It's not any easier. I take it back. It is easier for me than it is for others, but it still presents a challenge for me as well.
I think everyone, I know I've said I will do it and I haven't, so that's a problem. So I mean, we can all say we'll do it and then we just kind of forget about it. It's one of those things that happen, so I don't know how to fix that, but it's like how we hold ourselves accountable. So.
And I need to complete my WIP training class that I was doing with folks back in
2-year hiatus.
No, not a 2-year. Not that long.
Christina did a WIP class.
Needed for New York. For New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was last December, so a year and a half ago.
Rounding up. Been a while.
Okay, so yeah, great. Thank you. Teresa's gonna champion like putting together a list and then maybe even like requesting.
Okay.
I think once we put it on the calendar, it'll happen. It's on the calendar.
So as part of Teresa doing that, is that also entailing outside CPE as well? I mean, are we still following the outside CPE? Are we still following the previous channel of going to Glenn and Eric and the coach and say, this is the CPE that I found that I want to take at such and such place on whatever date? Is this okay? I mean, is that outside of Teresa's lunch and learn from the internal stuff?
I think that process still exists. I think that Teresa's involvement is how does she utilize that to schedule. So it's responsible for Eric and I to communicate back to Teresa, hey, this person's doing that. We need to get them scheduled.
Okay.
It's very aggressive.
Yeah.
Which is what it needs to be.
And I think we should shoot for having a lunch and learn once a month. getting something scheduled and getting
I mean, at one time we were doing that, and I enjoyed it.
it's
all about Eric.
It's not a natural thing for us to do, and it's not a when you get busy working in the business. All kinds of excuses.
So I'll send out an email recap just talking about my themes and champions of things and stuff like that. Do you guys have any thoughts on how we can improve the survey for next year or the next survey that we do, like how the process went? Please let me know or Lisa know. I'd like to see the questions tied back into the rocks more somehow next year, perhaps. That's my own suggestion. Right, yeah. Yes. So yeah, and it does seem like we're focusing on the negative, but I think that the fact that we're all willing and want to improve on these things is excellent. And I can only see it getting better from here as we work on this stuff, so it's pretty awesome.
I agree.
Okay, I have 2 minutes. I got 1 minute.
We're actually
We're at 10:29. So I got 1 minute. Huh?
We're a minute late.
10:29.
Yeah, closing thoughts.
Go ahead.
Did Sarah pass the rock to me? Okay. I'm down to 4. So I'm going to schedule something sometime in the next 2 weeks to have a conversation around our KIT process and our lack of utilization of KIT process. So I would simply ask you one question right now before we head into that. This first question is, did everybody understand, or was there anything unclear about the email that I sent out?
So you're looking for us to tell.
Was there any ambiguity? Was there any questions about it? Individually. Because I think without exception that there was various levels of lack of unity at all levels among all of us, and I'd really like I will ask the question when we all get together: why did we not use it? And my intent is to sit back. This is really hard for me, and to listen and to not control that conversation. And that's what's going to happen at the next meeting is I'm going to sit back, call on people, probably take volunteers initially, and then ultimately everybody's going to have an opportunity to share. I understand that the Ledger folks weren't involved with this, but I think it would be good for you to see this, but to share why, what was going on, and to be as candid and open and honest about that. Why it wasn't utilized. Because I really think we need to understand why we're not, and this is just one simple process that we have, why we're not utilizing our process.
Can you clarify what you mean by utilize the system?
Why didn't?
Because I'd like to say that I utilize the system entirely throughout the season. Now, there are times when I may have circumvented the process.
That's what I'm asking.
That's why I want you to clarify that.
Yeah.
It's clarified where in certain situations you may not have done it the way you're supposed to have done it.
Why?
Or not done it at all.
Thank you. That's why I think when I write something, I think I'm being clear, right? Okay? So, and the only way I know I'm not being clear is if people say, you know what did you mean by this? This is what I think you mean, okay? And checking in. So, for instance, the objectives that we're talking about here, and I know I'm going over, and
You started late, so it's all good.
I apologize for that, but are these objectives in terms of what we're trying to accomplish here clear? why we're doing this is what I'm saying. We're trying to be better as TYS and as individuals. This is not about punishing people. Okay? It's about us getting better. And I think in order for us to get better, we need to understand where we are. And the disappointment that I encountered in terms of looking at the KIP data was we really don't now have a baseline to start. And the disappointment is about not getting started. Because I have a burning desire within myself for us to be better. And I think for us to be better is we need to be better individually and as a group. Okay? So I will ask for you, Lisa, Fields, whatever, find a time where we can all get together and everybody hopefully will make time on their calendar to join in that conversation. Because I think it's as important as it was to have an open and honest conversation today about post-busy season survey. I think it's really important to have that conversation. And we're going to go try to solve the problem. Michael's shaking his head yes, so I'll say an hour and a half.
Do you watch Star Trek, Leslie?
It's the power of suggestion.
Right.
Part of the failure, part of the failure in terms of the process of failure of leadership. I don't think it's worth it.
So, partners are meeting around July 10th. Should bring things that they want discussed before then. Marketing is waiting on direction. The partners meeting. CDS is going to be submitting their questions this Wednesday, and about 2 weeks after that, start meeting with Larch. Tax committee is having a on May 30th. Tax is working on returns. Does somebody have me on speaker or something? Audit is doing what audit does. Admin is preparing for Lisa's leave, which will be July 15th to November 15th. Ledgers will have an intern starting June 3rd for 2 days a week. Management is having a meeting this Tuesday. Partners will be working on our business, not just in our business. And Mark will be championing the software portion of our technology, while Chris will be championing the hardware, specifically the cloud. Everybody should be aware of possible software improvements that we can make. We need to review and update the processes that we have for tax and probably A&A as well. And Teresa will champion in-house learning, live learning. Anything else?
Thanks for recording. Thanks for facilitating, Sarah.
Have a good weekend,
everybody.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.